IS201 back here for one of three more videos. Right now today, we're just going to do CSS positioning really quickly, and then I'll make another video for bootstrap themes, which is basically, right now you're learning the CSS and the HTML. The positioning is how you position those elements within the page. But then the bootstrap is like pre-done stuff that you're able to use in order to make it, because it just makes sense that you would use something pre-done. You're not going to reinvent the wheel every single time you make a website, you know? And then using live Tableau, which isn't that hard, but it takes a little bit of learning. So I'll show you guys how to do that too. But first, CSS positioning. So I'm just starting exactly where the last video left off. I actually just opened my computer and this was still open, so that's why I decided to do that. But if you guys remember, oh, this is still running on a server too. That explains why my battery's been so bad. You can just click go live down here, and you'll see, oh, you have all this stuff. So cool. You have your on-page anchor, your images that are links to Scottish Fold, all good stuff, right? You have your alt text in your images. Remember, you can do the inspect element to go through and check out what you have there as well. But it's really ugly, which isn't great, right? Like we want to, it's still gonna be ugly after we do this, right? But like we do want some form of header and just like positioning for the stuff on our page. So when you make a website, and there's another tag called a div tag. So what a div tag looks like, just looks like this, real simple. It has an opening and a close. But the difference between a div and something else is that it designates a piece of the page, basically, where something's going to be contained, right? So like let's say we wanted this and the next thing to be our heading. Then we can encompass that in a div tag. Right now it's not going to do anything because our div isn't doing anything, right? But if we inspect the element and we look in here, we can see that there's this div that has that and that. And the div just naturally takes up the space of what's inside of it, but that's not really, we want to designate where it's going to be. So let me show you. So remember how we made these classes, right? So if it was for a tag that already existed, you could do the hover, dot, whatever. Yeah. So if something that already existed, then you just put the name of the tag, right? And if it was something that didn't exist, it was a class that we were going to implement, like we did here. Blue text, red text, all that. Then we put a dot. So for our divs, we can do the same thing. So I'm going to make one new class. I'm going to call it dot header div. Cool. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you a way that I think is bad first, and I'll show you a way that I think is better. So you can designate a static width. So you can be like 500 pixels, woo, and you can say height 40 pixels. And then you won't actually be able to see it because it's invisible. It's just designating like a space, right? But what I'll do, for me personally, is I'll always have a background color, at least while I'm creating the div, just so I can see what it is. So there's something ugly like aquamarine, but maybe we'll change it later. And so to implement this div class into one of our things, it's really easy. You do the exact same thing. So for we wanted the blue text and the red text and all the styles associated, you take class. So same thing, class equals, we link that style sheet up there. And I named it header underscore div, right? So now when we come back, we refresh, we can see, look, it made a little header div. And it's pretty cool too. It actually shrunk our text so it fit inside of here. It tried to do it with this, but the text is too big, so it's not actually fitting inside. It's looking a little bit ugly, to be honest. So that's what happens when you give it a static height and width. You can also give it like margins. So like if I were to come in here, I said it was gonna be 500 pixels wide, 70 tall. If I say like margin dash left, and then I say, let's say 99 pixels, we'll see that it moves it from there over to there. That's where that kind of centering thing is. Like let's say we wanted to center this div. If I said margin dash left auto and margin dash right auto, check it out, it centers it. And I'll do that with any div that I make, right? And it keeps it centered from wherever the screen is. And we can see that that's something big is moving with our div, but the other ones aren't because they're outside of the div, right? So looking here, there's the div, it ends there. There's something a little less big and less big still are not apart so that they don't move with the div. and that new class we made. The way I prefer to do it, I mean, there's just a lot of ways you could do it, to be honest. Since this is the header, we want to go all the way across the screen, right? Because it's just the header. So I'll say 100 view widths with this. And that'll just make it the length of the whole screen. I kind of prefer that. I'll delete these margins, because if it's the length of the whole screen, you don't really need them, right? Zoom that out. Oh. It's looking a little too big, to be honest. Let me take a look really quickly. Body. Maybe if I do %, it'll be different. Oh, I think it's because... Okay, here's a good reason why. This won't really affect you when you're doing your bootstrapping your stuff. It won't really affect you for this either. But let me show you really quickly. I'm not going to save this. But when you do that HTML5 right there, you get all these meta chart, like all this stuff right here. This is what determines the view widths. So when you do that, just remember, you can type HTML5 and it'll automatically generate this stuff for you. Just like leave it and that'll be good. Let's see if my theory is right and that fixes it, because I'm smart. So it goes in our head. Save that. Didn't fix it. Well, and it's because this is 100 view widths, but it's actually going 100 view widths. 1 second. So let's take a look here. Index, header div, class. Boom, 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 boom. It's a p tag. If I do like 90, I'll just do that, you know? That looks pretty good. For the height, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just because it seems like it's not big enough. I'm going to say 300px. That seems too big. I'm going to go smaller. Let's go 150px. Save. Still a little too big. Let's just go like 122. I like that a lot. Ooh, that's nice. So I go 100. It's way too big. What do I do, like 99? One weird thing too that can happen sometimes is sometimes there's like default like margin and padding. So if I put a star here, that means it's going to apply to all elements. I'll say margin 0px and padding 0px. Nice. That looks a little bit better. I bet I can go back to 100 now and it won't even be bad. Oh yeah, that's nice. Cool, so now I have this nice little header right here. Woo. And then just to, like, that's like a CR div. Maybe we want a body and a footer div too. For the body div, maybe we don't want it to be all the way for whatever reason. Maybe it's because your Tableau graphs won't resize that exact size, right? So that didn't make sense. But basically, when you make your Tableau page on your website, it's going to have to be all the way custom. And one of those things is that it's going to have custom div positioning elements. And the Tableau graphs will be as big as whatever they're inside of. So it can be kind of nice to put them inside of a div that's not all the way gigantic, right? So maybe we say the width we're going to make, let's say 75 view widths, so it adjusts. Height, and we're just going to say auto, which means it'll just be as big as the content that's inside of it. And let's say in order to see, let's say we want to give it a border. And that border is going to be like 3 pixels thick, solid, and salmon. And we want curved borders because that looks pretty. So we'll say border radius. We'll say 4 pixels. Okay, we're getting there. That's a lot of the stuff that we want. So let's go in, and then we'll apply this div, right? So if we come in here, that didn't do anything yet because we didn't apply it anywhere. But let's say we want everything to be except for the footer, right? So we want everything else to be in that body div. So we made our header div, maybe we made another div, and we call it body. What to call it body underscore div. Nice. So then I'll come down, I'll put all my content inside of there. Now check it out. So it made our little div, it resized all this stuff. And you can see how this stuff right here that was like all long before, it went the entire length. Now it only goes to the edge of the div that's inside of, because if we look at the style associated, we said it was going to be with the border or whatever, right? Yeah, we gave it this border for p tags. So all of our p tags have a border right now. And the border only the p tag naturally takes up the entire width of the screen like that. But if it's inside of a div, it won't. But like we said, we want to censor that, right? Center that, not censor it. So you can actually apply text styling to a div as well. Or I mean, sorry, I'll show you that in a minute. But in order to center it, you guys remember it's that margin dash left auto. And if we just type that, it'll take it all the way over left. That's not what we want either, right? So I'm going to say margin dash right auto. Nice. See how those aren't encompassed in either of those points? Maybe we want a little bit of padding between the content and the div itself. So I can do padding to the left, padding to the right. I'm just going to do padding in general for all of it. I'm going to say 15 pixels. Maybe a little more then. Maybe we'll go 22. That looks nice. That looks real good. So we're getting there with all of this. Awesome. What else? Yeah, maybe we want to throw a footer in there. So it's like footer div. Let's say we want the background of that to be aquamarine as well. Oh, I was going to show you text dash align center. So a lot of the time kids will try and put text align in like a p tag or like an a tag or something like that to make it go in the center, but really the text align center is going to go in the div. So that's just something to remember and keep in mind. Yeah. And we'll say the width is going to be 100 VW, and then we will also say wait, I might have lied to you about this. We're going to find out right now. I'll say the height is 70px. And let's say we only want a border on the top. That is where it matters. 3px solid black. And we are moving. Good job. Okay, so now we come in here. Oh, and we haven't applied it yet. We haven't put anything inside of it either. So let's come here to my second, or to index. Below here, we'll just make another div, designates our little area. Also, I'll tab things inside of divs. It just makes it a lot easier to see. It's like I would tab all of this in if I were you, but you do what you want and live your truth. Tab all of this in. Now this will say class equals footer div. Now that I made it, it should be there. Nice. It has a little black background. It has all that. If I put text inside of here, it should technically center it, I think. Could be just very wrong, though. Is that outside of it? Yeah, see how that's between the divs? That's why I put that there. Okay. Nice. So see how it centered it? I think if I put it in a p tag, though, it'll break it. Let's find it out. Or it won't, and I'm smart. Oh, yeah. Turns out I'm smart. See how it made that box for the p tag, because that's a style that we have. Like all the p tags get that stupid border radius thing that we made, right? But it did center it, which is crazy. So go us. We're smart. Also, you see why that's moving right there? It's because we have it so that all of our anchor tags expand when they're hovered over. So even though you don't see it, this image is technically the area it takes up is expanding when we hover over it, because it's also an anchor tag. Crazy, right? It's an image inside of there. And we can space this differently if we wanted to too, to make it a little more seeable. Maybe we want to put it like that. Yeah. That's kind of the basics of positioning though. That's how I usually do it. I'll use view widths. I'll use a footer. I'll make these in the middle. And actually right now I'll show you one more useful thing for one more useful thing. You don't need to do this, but you might want to on your website because it'll make everything look more uniform and good. Maybe we want to make like a navigation bar or something like that. So I'm going to make one, and I'm going to call it .nav div. Okay. And then what I'll do for the nav div sometimes, if I were you, I mean, it's whatever you want, to be honest. Sorry, that's a call from my brother. I'll answer that later. So text. You can skip the next 10 seconds. Sure, call you in a minute. Dope. Cool. Good. We feel positive about that. Okay, that's our nav div. Okay, and so what I'm showing you right now is that we can make this. I'm going to give it a height as well. And I'm going to say that it's like 13. I'll say 15 pixels or something like that. And so here's something interesting here. We're going to put this div inside of another div, which seems crazy right now, but realistically it's what you're going to do most of the time if you actually work with this stuff, right? Nav div. There's our nav div. Let's see if it appeared. Oh, where is it? You're tempted to say that it doesn't exist, but that's the whole thing, is that it does. One, we can tell because it puts space between this and the top of the screen, but also we can also tell because we can come in here and we can just give it a background color and we'll be able to see. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a border as well. Actually, I'm going to give it that salmon border because it's nice. I'm going to give it a border radius too. I'm going to give it some padding because I think it needs it. Now let's check it out. Ooh, way too big though. Let's make the width auto. No, let's not make it auto. Let's make the width like, I want to say 20 VW. But here's the thing. What if we don't want our navigation there, right? Also, I'm going to give it margins everywhere too. So the padding makes it so the content on the inside has spacing. Margins are going to make it so it has spacing away from the div on the other sides. So I'm going to say 10px. Nice. Did a weird thing there. Maybe I'll just say margin. Actually, I'll show you what we'll do with it. What we're going to do is crazy. So all of these other divs, technically their position is considered relative. So if I were to say position relative, it wouldn't make a difference, right? Because that's just how they already are. That's the default. But if I want to make something in a fixed position so it doesn't move, I can say fixed. Well, I'm not going to do that one because that'd be gross. I'm just going to delete that there. But for our nav, I can say position fixed. So now this won't move no matter what. It's always going to stay fixed to the screen. And now I can use some of those margins, right? So I'm going to say margin dash right 4px. I already did that. Actually, here's what you can say. This is the big brain move. You can say float right. And actually, in this case, you don't want it to be fixed. You want it to be relative as well. Nice. And see how floating it right puts it in that top right part of the screen that we wanted, right? And then we can give it some margins so it's not as ugly. So for margin on the left, we'll say 5 pixels. So margin from the top, we'll say 5 pixels. Oh, and then margin right, didn't I? So now it has this like nice little div that stays in that top right. So it's a div inside of a div. So there's our header div, which is light blue, and there's our other div, which is the, you know, I'm going to take away that stupid style of the p tags having the border too, because I think that's just confusing us. And by us, I mean me, because I'm not that smart sometimes. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so now we can have that nice little navigation bar up there. You could be fixed if you wanted it to. It just takes a little more doing. I think this is the easiest way though. And then inside of there, we could put like a little P tag that can have our navigation links, right? So maybe we can have a link to, that's like, you guys remember how to do that? The href equals. You'll use source for image, use href for everything else. And we'll say inside of our A tag, we want that to go to second page. And remember how to get there. We have to go into the HTML folder. And from the HTML folder, we then go to my second page of HTML. So now we can see there's a link inside of there. It gets big, which is gross. But that just is what it is. If we wanted to get rid of that for that link specifically, we could probably come in here. Just be like dot class, maybe like dot nav link. And hover. And then I'm going to say so they made it go from that to 32. Well, I'm going to say size. We'll go 12px, which I think is what it already is, hopefully, unless I'm just wrong. It's not size, it's font dash size. Cool. So now I can come into here. And if I want that specific anchor tag to be different, then I can come in and I will just say font dash size. Where is it? Oh, for my, so I have my href already. I'll say class equals font dash class equals, and I call it nav link, I think. How do I call it? Yeah. So now it gets smaller. See, because we applied that change, so whatever's close to the text gets applied. So that was what we put on index.html on the nav link. So yeah, this is plenty for your web dev walkthrough. You can go ahead and turn this in. Great job. After this, on my next video, I'm going to go over implementing a Bootstrap theme. So a pre-done theme that we'll just edit, and also making our Tableau graphs go live and implementing those. So that should be another 22 to 25 minute video. And then sometime towards the end of the week, I may or may not make a video about how to make your website go live. It's really easy. It's in my educator as well. If you just go to the course. Yeah, so right now we're absolutely breezing through styling and positioning. They're probably way more in depth. I don't like the way they teach it very much on here. I like the way I teach it better, so it might be a little easier for you, but do whatever feels best. But this make it live is how you actually make it go live. And it's really easy. It's like a 10 or 15 minute video. But I will leave this one for now, and then I will make the next one where we talk about Bootstrap. Great job, guys. Save that.